I get to puffin', yeah, I'm off in space. City rising with me, I'm just hoping I don't fall from grace.
Welcome to the Power of Now with Rich Bruckner. Thank you for watching the first episode, and we have a real good one for you today. I want to introduce somebody who's been in my life for probably 20 years now. A guy who, in my view, I'll see if I'm right or wrong because I purposely didn't ask a lot of questions when we were communicating the last couple of weeks. But, leading up to the show, I wanted to make sure I left a lot of stuff to talk about. So I purposely avoided conversation to an extent. But in my view, somebody who followed their dream and is doing basically what they always wanted to do. And so he's, would you consider yourself a musician?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So he's a musician, content creator, editor, a guy that I grew up with, went to middle school, high school with, Gaffney Pierre.
That's good. Thank you for having me, brother.
Thank you for being my first guest. When I decided I wanted to do this, I started thinking about people that had an impact on my life. And I literally wrote out a list of like 25 people. And then when I actually got the studio together and I started reaching out to people to make an appointment to do it, like you were in my top list of like 3 people I wanted to have for the first episode. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. It's
an honor. And just to start out, I wanted to ask you, do you view yourself as somebody who followed their dream and is pursuing like what you always thought you would do?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So my original first dream was to be a musician. I wouldn't say a rapper. I would say a musician because I never really just made rap music. It was always more like my favorite artist is Kid Cudi, so it always sounded similar like that, like a spacey, ethereal vibe.
Yeah, one of your songs came on when I was driving home. Like I keep my music on shuffle, and one of your songs came on, and I was like, "Oh, this is like perfect timing for me to," because I haven't heard. It was off Lunar too. I haven't heard it in a while. Like I really just let my music play on shuffle, and whatever pops up, pops up.
Nice.
But I didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
No, you're good. In case you didn't know, I'm often spaced on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, whatever you use.
I'll put everything in the description of the YouTube and Spotify too.
Thank you. But yeah, so my original dream is music, and I started doing that, I think, when I was 14. And basically how I started off that was I was a huge Lil Wayne fan, and I'd recycle some of his lines and change some of them, and then recycle them into my verses. And then after a while, I figured out how he got good at making words do certain things and sound certain ways. So then I started my own style. I started eventually writing my own music probably when I was like 15, 16, something like that. So it started with that, but I'm still making music. In the process of booking shows if I have the time. I try to do like open mics in certain cities that I stop in because my current job is I'm a content coordinator for a podcast called Morning Combat with Luke Thomas and Ryan Campbell. And that's actually my second love because I'm a huge, huge MMA fan. I started liking martial arts when I was, I think, 10 or 9. I did Taekwondo, and I stayed in that until about 10th grade when I went into football and intramural sports, stuff like that. And then I kind of lost that love for it just because I stopped going. I was a junior black belt. I was literally one level away from being a real black belt and didn't finish. Stupidly. So I think that's why I kept like my love for martial arts because I never finished that, and I always basically had something to prove with that. So MMA became a huge part of my life, and I was a huge super fan. Watched all the shows, watched Ariel's show, watched Morning Combat in the first like 10 episodes that came out. Watched Luke Thomas's podcast, watched a bunch of reporters, MMA Fighting, all those guys, and eventually a job opportunity came up when one of my friends in the company I was working with left, and he started working as a podcast live streamer for Morning Combat. And then he offered if I wanted to be a producer for it because he knew I was a huge MMA fan and I knew all the names of the people, how to spell it. He knew I wouldn't get information wrong and I'd keep storylines correct. So he felt like it would be a good fit, and that was in 2019. I've been there since.
Right. And that's kind of where I was going with, like, I felt like you stuck to what you love to do because like always knew you loved to make music and all that, but at the same time, like as far as video and editing and stuff like that, we kind of both had a similar path with that in high school and
media class and Mr. Carnivale.
Yeah, and then we had like an interest in MMA. So like I see you doing a lot of stuff. I see you going to a lot of events. I see you creating content, which is ultimately it's still something creative. And then you get to travel to all these places, and it's like, you know, I look at certain people, like I look at you, Sean, and like people that are still sticking with what you were in love with, what you were passionate with when we were young. In a lot of ways, like the reason why I'm doing this is because I found myself that I lost all my creative energy and I put it all into sales, because at a certain point I just, you know, I was pursuing a dream and doing something creative and entertaining. But then I kind of found something that I thought I was better at. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to drop the creative thing completely. And all these years passed by. It's been almost 9 years. Oh, wow. And I'm looking at people that are like doing amazing things. And I'm like, wow, like what would have happened if I would have stuck with that? So I don't have regrets, but I'm very interested in people that stuck with their guns and are doing something that they love to do. Like you wake up and get excited to go to work still?
Depending on the day. Depending on what I'm doing that day. So if I'm like going to do a Showtime fight week or going to shoot an open workout or an interview with a fighter that I'm a fan of, then I enjoy those days. But if it's like a slow week and, you know, there isn't a Showtime thing or there isn't boxing or MMA going on, they'll throw me on something that I don't like doing. So,
can I ask what that would be? Or is that going to get you into trouble?
Corporate stuff for certain companies and it's some music stuff too.
Yeah.
See, I guess the issue for me with the music stuff is I would rather be the artist than the person shooting the artist. Mm-hmm. So working as the person shooting the artist is kind of demeaning to me in a way. So that's probably why I don't like. So like we have a couple clients like Amazon Music, L'Oreal, stuff like that. And I love going to their shows. I love the products we put out, but actually doing it and directing it and doing that kind of stuff, it doesn't move me. But doing stuff like MMA, boxing, getting to tell storylines of fighters, putting a fighter that nobody knows and putting them on the map or making a feature on them and making them more known because they're a great story is like one of the things I enjoy doing. So that's why I feel way more passionate about MMA and that kind of stuff than music in an industry that kind of just picks and chooses and has a hierarchy.
I got you. Did you watch the Idol with The Weeknd?
Yeah, it was terrible. Everybody said that.
That's what I was going to ask though, because like you mentioned like how it has a hierarchy. Like, do you think that the way they portrayed the music industry was?
I think it was accurate.
Accurate.
It was. I wouldn't say it's spot on, but
like obviously it's,
of it
yeah, like it's dramatized and they make it like a little bit overkill, but overall, like
the bones of it is exactly.
I never watched the finale, but you know what it was?
The real finale or the finale they gave us?
Well, I just, you know how I think they had 6 episodes.
Yeah,
I think I watched up to episode 5, and then one more episode came out, and I never watched it, and it wasn't even intentional. I just kind of like I forgot, and then like a couple weeks go by, and it's like I don't care anymore. Yeah. But the show itself, stylistically, like artistically, like that's the only places I saw any merit. Like storyline to me, like I really was just like this isn't going anywhere, you know? Like I felt like I don't know if the finale tied up any loose ends, but I just felt like it was let's see how much drugs and sex and shock we can get into a 60 minute show. Yeah,
that's basically what it was. They kind of just,
and they made Abel like the only thing I will say, people were talking about him as a terrible actor. Like to me, like a mark of a good actor is like I fucking hated him. Like I was like I want to fucking punch him in the face. And usually when I react that way to somebody, they're doing a pretty good job. You know?
See, I had that same reaction, but the reason I wanted to hit him is because I didn't believe anything he was saying. So like, yeah, I don't know. His role just wasn't believable to me. The way he portrayed it wasn't believable. Even the way he looked wasn't believable. I mean, I get that there's some scumbag that looks like that,
right?
But we didn't have to make The Weeknd look like that. We could have used his image to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like something close to it. Why do we have to give him this weird rat tail? Why do we have to do all this weird stuff? Give him the small man complex, all this stuff that kind of didn't need to be there. And also, there was a lot of nudity, which I'm sure the dudes loved.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot, like sex sells in the music industry. So they kind of had to get that point across. So,
see, so it's like, I was thinking maybe too deeply into it, but, because he was like partial creator, like / writer, it made me wonder like how much of his own personality he put into that character. Because like then I heard, I'm listening to, I told you I keep my music on shuffle, so like the Knowing came on off Trilogy, and I'm like listening to the lyrics of that, and I'm like, yo, like he really is an asshole. And then I'm like, is that part of him like really showing through in that character, or am I thinking too deep into this? But that was just something that made me wonder about the show. So
I could see that. But I feel like even that was overkill, or the way he decided to show it on camera might have been overkill. Yeah. He could have done it way more subtly.
Yeah.
And I think if he just used the right words as opposed to trying to look animated,
right,
it would have played better.
I think Hollywood has this big trend right now of like, they like to do weird out of the box shit, but now it's like being done so much that it's not even out of the box anymore. Like, did you see that Painkiller show on Netflix?
No.
It was one of those things where like they have these random scenes of these like multi-billionaire painkiller execs, and they're all like dancing to like hip hop music, and it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, and I'm like, I know they're trying to be weird, but it's like,
there's too much of that.
It's so obvious that they're trying to be weird. Overall, it was a good show, though. I actually liked the show a lot.
Okay.
And just going back to The Idol real quick, I asked Andres, I was like, yo, what'd you think about The Idol?
He liked the first few of that.
So he was like, in the beginning, I kind of liked it, but now I wish he hadn't done this to his legacy.
That's how we all feel. We share that same sentiment with Dre. We share that same sentiment.
Yeah, that was like the best answer I could have thought of. Yeah. Have you seen The Weeknd live? Like, since I know you went back in the bar at Philly, like,
yeah, I saw the second show ever in Philly.
That's fucking insane, bro.
Yeah. I didn't even want to go. My roommate was going, and then because it was basically, I think that was my first live show ever.
What year was that again?
I think that was 2010, maybe 11, but I think it was 10.
That makes sense because I tell people now like that like we knew about, and they're like, oh, like you're so cool, you knew The Weeknd before, but I'm like, nah, but like legit, like my boy was at his second show in Philly. Like,
and the only reason I didn't go to the first one in New York is because I was at school in Philly, so I wasn't traveling to go to a show and then coming back.
Yeah,
especially when my friends were going to the Philly one.
Yeah. And I always tell people the first time I got arrested, I was doing drugs off of his Trilogy album in the car. Like,
I mean, good artist for it, I guess.
But like that's just like, a lot of things about The Weeknd. Like I'm like, he's one of my favorite artists in general. But like obviously he reminds us of CJ, and like, there's a lot of things that like tie me close, and like me, Miz, and Andres were all at the show at MetLife last year, bro. It was like...
Yeah, that must have been wild.
And I was so happy to be there because the first time I was supposed to see him live was at Radio City. Did you go to that show with everybody?
No. I think I was away.
Yeah, I ended up not making it because I bought a ticket, and like last minute I was broke and I fucking sold my ticket. I'm not going to say who I sold it to because I don't want to like... It's a crazy... I'll tell you after the show, but like the guy who I sold it to got so fucked up he didn't make it to the show. So
that ticket was cursed. That's what happened. That ticket was cursed, bro.
But yeah, and that even aggravated me more because I was like, damn it, I could have just went. But
at least you got the money back, right?
Yeah, I needed it. But yeah, we kind of got on a tangent. So is there any events with work, like as far as like combat sports that are like coming in the next 3 months that you're really looking forward to?
I can't wait for Canelo versus Charlo. I just did the press conference. Well, my team did the press conference in New York, and then I did the press conference in LA. Mm-hmm. And then I guess we joint did it in LA. And then the fight is late September. I think it's September 30th in Vegas. So I'm excited about that. And then hopefully we get a Gervonta Davis or, you know, even Gary Russell Jr. fight at the end of the year. Somebody a decent size. Since we got all the stars that already fought this year, we saw Tank and Ryan, we saw Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. We're about to get Canelo and Charlo. So I think we need a good heavyweight fight coming out. That would be cool.
Okay. Now, as far as where your career is now, how much of that would you say has it been about, like, do you think that everything kind of fell into place, or did you, like, build a path for yourself to get where you are?
I definitely built a path. So the job I used to work for, I'm not going to say their name, but I wanted, one of the podcasts that they did was Ariel's show, the MMA Hour. And I would watch it pretty often because at the time, that show was only once a week on Monday, and it was 5 hours, 4 hours, something like that. And I'd watch it. And I told upper management multiple times, even when I interviewed, that I was very interested in MMA, and that's what I really wanted to do. Now, at this point, I'm 2.5 years at the company, something like that.
Right.
And I've asked to train there multiple times, but we didn't have the resources at the time. So, and the only way they would be able to get me over there was they'd have to waste a day for me to go over there to train on it, just because it was on a TriCaster, which is pretty intricate streaming and production computer. So I never got that opportunity. And then when my friend that was working at the company got fired and worked for a different company, he started working on Morning Combat. And that's why he offered me that job. And I was like, well, this place has an MMA show that's well established that I really want to work for, but they're not letting me get that opportunity. I'm doing a whole bunch of other things, mind you. Like, it's not like they just didn't let me do anything. I did a music show. I opened up the Shed in New York City.
Oh, shit.
For Steve McQueen and all of them. But so they just wouldn't let me do it. So I was dating I don't think we were dating at the time. I think she was just like a friend, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
One of those, a night friend.
Okay. She was just a friend.
Yeah. And then I was asking her, I was like, yo, what do you think I should do? Should I leave this job and go pursue this other job? Even because the job I was currently at was in New York City, and the one I was going to go to was even further. It was in Jersey City. Okay. So I'm just like, that's going to add to my commute. But she said, is it something you really want to do? And do you think you can see yourself doing it for a long time? I was like, hell yeah. She's like, then do it. I was like, yo, honestly, best advice ever, because I did it. I've been there almost 4 years now. Yeah. And I'm dating her now, too. So
so it worked out. Listen, sometimes in life, you know the answer and you already kind of made the decision in your mind, but you just want somebody to reaffirm what you already know. You know what I'm saying? Like you probably had it in your head, like, this is what I want to do, but you just needed a little bit more of reassurance. You know what I mean?
I was ready to play the safe route and just stay where I was. And because I was actually getting a raise there too, and I took a pay cut to go to the new job. I took like a $5,000 pay cut.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, that's something else that it's like, it's important sometimes to weigh out, like, where am I going to be happier versus where am I going to make the most money?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I have found happiness here. I can honestly say at this company, I've probably been the happiest professionally I've ever been in my life. So
yeah. And let's just say in terms of, because you do music, video, you do a little bit of both, podcast,
graphic design, everything.
Graphic design. If you had to pick, I'm going to ask a two-sided question.
Except for animation.
The two-sided question is, if you had to pick 3 people that you've never had an opportunity to work with yet, that would be your top priority by the end of 2024. Let's give it a whole year, this time next year. Who would be the top 3 people that you would make it your priority to work with? And 3 people that, well, I don't know if I even want to go there, but like I was going to say people that you've worked with that you would never want to work with again. But that might be touchy. Yeah. So I'll leave that as an optional follow-up question.
See, that's the crazy part. I've actually gotten to work with, if we're talking production and that side of things I love, I've pretty much worked with everybody that I've wanted to work with. I've worked with Ariel Helwani, I've worked with Luke Thomas, Ryan Campbell, I've worked with a bunch of the guys at MMA Fighting. I've worked with Oscar Willis from the Mac Life. I've worked with Aaron Bronstetter from TSN. So many people. And honestly, the only people that I haven't worked with are in companies like the UFC, bigger companies. And honestly, I would never work for ESPN. I'm sorry. Fuck you, ESPN.
So in terms of people that you have worked with, is there anybody you were surprised on how they treated you, either positively or negatively?
Positively, Ariel's a really good guy. Like,
okay.
Extremely good guy. I really like him as a person. And we have a lot of the same interests, so it's easy to like him.
In a way that doesn't surprise me, even though I've seen him get shit on by like multiple fighters. Like, he just seems like a genuinely good guy.
Yeah. I could see why they take reservations with some of the things that he does, but you gotta remember he's doing his job.
Yeah. He's being a journalist. He's trying to get to the bottom of things.
Exactly.
You know? And he's speaking his mind, which if he didn't do, then it's kind of like, you know, it's his job to speak his mind and to give his opinion, you know, so.
And my guys, Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, they're really good guys too.
Okay.
Really funny. Low-key funny.
All right, if you had to say, if somebody's watching this and they're a young kid and like they want to be doing something like what you're doing and you had to give them 3 pieces of advice, I like to do things in threes.
Okay.
What would be what would be like the top 3 things you would give them, like in terms of like anything? It could be life, school, like whatever it may be. Like if it's like their mindset, like what would be the top 3 things you would tell them as like a preparation for succeeding in this area of their lives?
I would say be persistent and consistent. If you really want to do something, keep working at it. Don't give up on it. No matter, even if it's a small thing you do every day, you should still do it. Just because no step is too small, and it'll always push you forward. Every step's going to take you forward. So why not? Even if there's no progress, even if the end result doesn't get you what you want, at least you went that far and you tried. So that's 1. Number 2 would probably be everything you do it with a smile and make the people around you feel good. I would rather have somebody that's not as good at their job, but they can make everybody in the room feel comfortable in their job and have an easy time doing their job than someone that's really good at their job and makes everyone in the room feel like shit. So always choose good people that you want to work with and that have a positive attitude, and portray that yourself too. Nobody wants bad energy in the office, especially at work. Don't take that. Don't take that to work. And then the third thing would be maybe, damn, I don't know what the third thing would be.
We can come back to that. I mean, you touched on 2 really important things that I love, and it's like the same thing in my office and my business.
Oh, I know what the last thing is.
Go on.
Work ethic.
Okay.
Work ethic. Always go the extra mile. And even if it's not, even if you're getting no recognition, know you're doing it for you, and know that you're doing your best in your job. There's not going to be a bad day if you're trying your best at your job. So that would probably be the last thing.
That wrapped it up perfectly. I mean, as far as like those 3 pieces of advice, I literally have seen each one, and that's universal for any business that you're in. And I've had people that are like amazing salesmen, but their behavior is so toxic that it brings everybody else in the office down, and just nobody wants to be there. And then there's people that are mediocre at sales, but they just get along with everybody. They don't cause trouble. Like people that cause trouble, it takes food off everybody's plate because, you know, nobody's working as hard. Nobody's working together. Nobody's being a team. So that makes a lot of sense. And you see that in sports too, bro. Like you see people that are like, you know, I can't think of an example right now, but in team sports, when you have one guy that's like the superstar and they know it and they act like it, everybody on the team hates them. And then all of a sudden you think having this player on the team is going to bring them to the next level. Instead, they fall apart because nobody works together. Because
they're taking liberties and everybody sees them taking liberties and they're like, why do they get this special treatment?
Right.
And then it brings morale down.
Yep.
Nobody likes that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of like where we're at in life now, it's kind of crazy to like look back and think about like when everything's just like for fun versus when it becomes a job, were you surprised at all when you started doing creative things professionally? Did it take any of the drive out of it for you, or did it, become more like a frustrating thing as opposed to something that you were able to enjoy doing?
It was definitely something I could enjoy doing. I think it was more confirmation about the things that I chose in high school and the things that I chose in college. Because originally, I really liked media. Working with you in media class, I think we made really good films for 10th graders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, looking back on it, like
you were a fantastic editor. Seriously, really good editor.
Thank you.
And some of the stuff we shot in the hallways and did certain things, I would think, I was like, this is so not making it in, but you'd find a way to fit it in and make it work. Whether you put it in black and white or you zoomed in on something, that was the fun part. Just creating something and see what we could turn it into.
Right. Yeah. I miss doing that, man. And again, that's kind of why I'm doing this, because I feel like I don't want to look back at my life when I'm in my 60s and 70s and be like, I should have done something with the creative part of my brain. And so that's always been a part of me. So I'm literally, bro, I haven't edited anything in so many years. I couldn't even tell you. And I just got Final Cut Pro on this computer. And nice. I was just shooting YouTube videos on a handheld camera and then uploading it. And it was I've never forgot how to do it. And I never even used to use Final Cut.
Random bike.
Yeah, bro. It's I just had to Google, how do I find the blade tool? How do I do that?
You're probably trying to pull a Pinnacle Pro. And
I'm but it looks different, but it's the same thing. Yeah. And I know what I want to do, and I could see the vision of it in my head. Now I just had to learn the fundamentals of it again. And so now it's got me thinking what do I do 5-10 years out?
Yeah, how advanced will your skills get by then?
Yeah, bro. And so now that I'm doing this, this is just a start for me, because me, Derek, and Bove and all
Crow.
of us, we used to make these dumb little podcasts in 2010, 'cause we saw Joe Rogan, and then all these years passed by, I never did anything with that, and it's I've always wanted to, and it's I can, so why am I not doing it? What's holding me back? There's all these self-limiting beliefs. Did you face that at all? Was there a part of you when you got into your career that you're in now that was shit, should I have just stayed an engineering major? Is this going to support me? Did you have a lot of doubts?
No doubts. Especially since I hated engineering. I switched my major my junior year, which is usually a death sentence. But the way I structured my college classes is that I handled most of my prerequisite classes and the stupid arts, one in arts, one in science, one in whatever. I did all those early. And then my junior year, I just started doing my core engineering classes. I was in thermodynamics and Calc 3, and I was just crunching numbers all day, doing stuff I hated. I always hated math in high school. I got hundreds in history, hundreds in English, and these French, stuff like that. But math and science were always, I don't even know why I wanted to be an engineer. I think my parents pushed me. And but my junior year, I was yo, what I actually like to do is what I did in high school. I like making films. I like doing media. I like making art. So I was why am I doing this thing that I actually hate? I'm going to wake up every day hating my life. So I switched in my junior year. Originally to architecture, actually, because I was I can make buildings and still. I was still trying to find that happy medium. Yeah, and then I switched after that semester. I was it's still too much math, and then I switched to broadcast, telecommunications, and mass media. And then since then, I've been rocking with media since production.
That's awesome, bro, and that's crazy that you did that, because there's so many people that literally wake up every morning and they're I hate what I do for a living. I don't want to be doing this. That's the other part of the title of this podcast, The Power of Now, is now is the time to act. Now is the time to do what you want to be doing, because if you're watching this and you hate what you do every morning, you're definitely not the only person like that. I grew up around tons of people like that. Everybody who I was around hated going to work every day, hated what they were doing every day. And, you know, it always made me have a negative thought about like growing up, being an adult, having adult responsibilities. And I always said, like, I'll never be the workaholic. I'll never be the guy that spends all his time at work. I ended up being exactly that. Like, you know,
that's how it goes, man.
And I don't hate what I do, actually. Like, I actually do like sales because it's, in a way, it's a constant challenge. Like, you're competing every day. You have to compete. And I do enjoy that in a way. But
yeah, competition's fun.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's, you know, it's fun to like, get on the phone with somebody, and
it's almost like a game.
It is. It's literally the most intense game, because it's like you wake up every Monday morning and you have nothing coming to you. All you have coming to you is whatever commission you build throughout the week. Mm-hmm. So I do enjoy that aspect of it, but it's still not creative. It's still not what I really pictured myself doing when I was young. So, you know, not to keep going back to this, but like when I wanted to start a podcast, I thought about it for so many years. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I had all these ideas. It didn't happen until I woke up one day and said, bro, I'm buying the equipment today.
Yep.
Yo, like these chairs we're sitting in, this, like everything that's in this office right now, that desk, that computer, that printer, that chair. No, well, that I had. But like this office didn't exist last month. I literally just went on Wayfair, bought some furniture, went on B&H and bought all the podcast equipment, the camera, like I bought everything and just set it up, and boom, like now we're sitting here doing a podcast, and
that's all it takes, man.
That's how easy it is. Like it's about taking action now, not tomorrow, not thinking about it, not planning it, because I've thought about it and planned it several times in the last 9 years. It's just, this is the first time I'm actually doing it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's really like the whole message here. And like, so the fact that you had no doubts once you changed your major, that's the opposite for me. I had so many doubts because I was at a place where I was actually doing stand-up comedy, mm-hmm. and I was relatively successful for just like the open mic circuit. Like I was getting up there, getting laughs, and I was figuring out how to write jokes, and I was really enjoying that too. And then I had a sales job that was just supposed to pay my bills in the meantime. And as soon as I saw the level of success I was hitting with the sales skyrocket, and the comedy just was like slowly going up, I just abandoned the comedy completely. And I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. So as soon as I like dove in head first with that, I had no time for anything. Like it was just go, go, go. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the same way towards like my YouTube channel, my podcast, my Instagram content. That's how I feel towards all this now, is like I built a business for myself and I was successful at that. But now like I want to take that same energy and passion and put it into, first of all, helping people, because that's the whole point of my content right now, is just about helping other people. So the message in this podcast is meant to help people that either are miserable at work, or they're too young and they're like figuring out what they want to do. Like I just want to have every guest on here share their experience in a way that's going to inspire people to either, you know, I don't want you to quit your job and be on the street, but I want you to build that path for yourself. And like, if you're in an engineering major right now and you're you're a year away from graduating and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going to want to be an engineer for the rest of my life, change your major. Like there's proof sitting right here. Like
now's the time. And I only had to stay 5 years. So four turned into 5. That's it.
And who's going to complain about an extra year of college? Really?
I did. I had a great time.
How was your college experience overall, would you say? On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best. And don't say 10, because then...
No, there's no 10s.
There's no 10s.
There's no 10s unless you were president of fraternity, and because of that, you became, like, a mogul. That's the only way you get a 10. But I'd say mine was like an 8.1.
Okay, that's a good score.
Yeah, I was king of beer pong at the time, so that was cool. I had a girlfriend in college. That was pretty cool. You know,
you think that was a good
house,
thing?
Did the whole live in the house. Did the what's it called when you do the social structure? Like you run for chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I basically everything I wanted to do in life, I at least tried it.
Yeah.
So and I have no regrets now.
Yeah.
Like sitting where I am now, I'm like, there's nothing that I could go back and I'd be like, damn, I would redo that.
I wish I would have done this. I wish. Yeah.
Yeah, at least tried it. So
that's the worst thing in life is like looking back with regrets. So yeah.
Except for engineering, I don't want to try that. I'm good off that.
Yeah. So like all that being said, with where you're at right now, it seems like
I still got places to go. I want to be talented.
That's exactly what I was gonna. That's exactly where I was going with that segue. Yeah. I was gonna say like with where we're at now, we've established ourselves, but we're still young men. We're in our early 30s, and there's still so much more time to cement a legacy for yourself. Like if you like I'm gonna use a quote right now. Like a lot of people will overestimate what they can do in a short term, and they'll underestimate what they can do in a long term. So if you had to guess where you would be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or let's do 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years.
Say 2,
yeah,
3.
Let's do 3, 5, and 10.
3, I want to be a personality.
Okay. In what way?
Whether it's music or from an MMA analyst. Okay. Those are the only 2 careers I could see myself doing and flourishing in both of them. I'm either going to be a musician, like an artist, or I'm going to be a face. Whether it's for a giant company or a small company, my own. I definitely want to be a face.
Yep.
So besides that 5 years, I want to be an established face. I want to be someone that, not a household name yet, but on the way to it. Almost like a Max Kellerman, like that kind of thing. Like a lot of people know him, but not everyone knows him.
Right.
And then 10 years, I want to own my own company. I'm in the process of doing. I have an LLC right now, but 10 years, I want to own my own company and have it maybe profit at least $100K a year.
There you go.
Yeah.
Those are solid goals, and the way you get there is you write those goals down with a timeline on them. And then you ask yourself, what does it take to get? How would I get there if I had to get there right now? Like I tell the guys that work for me, if you want to make this amount of money this week, all right, so figure out how much profit you have to write, how many deals you have to write with how much profit in them. All right, figure out exactly what product you're going to sell. Like get as detailed as possible, because if you're just telling yourself I have to make this much money, you're not giving yourself like an actual structure of how you're going to do it. But if I tell them, all right, you want to make $5,000. So let's say your commission is 40%. So you're going to have to write $12,000 in profit. And then how are you going to write $12,000 in profit? What product are you going to sell? And how many of that product are you going to sell to get there? Okay, so how many calls on average do you make to make each sale? All right, so figure out, does that mean you need to make 300 calls a day? Then make 300 calls a day. Do you need to make 500? But whatever it takes to hit your goal, that's what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to put this in terms of like, let's say you wanted to pay your bills by having a podcast, your own podcast, right?
That's ideal.
So then you go, all right, what are my monthly bills? You write them all down and you say, all right, I need to make this much money each month. So how can I do that? I could do that with Patreon. I could do that with sponsors. I could do that with merch. You got to break down. Yeah, you got to break down like what am I monetizing right now? And then if you could figure out exactly how to do that, then your goal becomes more specific and it's more reachable that way. You know what I mean? So like that's how I always break down my goals now since I got into sales, and it worked into every aspect of my life now. Like whenever there's something I want to accomplish, I ask myself more and more questions until my goals become more specific, you know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a good process for success.
Yeah. And it gives a lot less anxiety to just like having this big vague goal because you don't know how you're going to get there. It's just it's just lingering. But if you break it down into small steps, and then what I do too is like I break it down to like monthly, like what do I need to do each month to get there within 12 months, let's just say. What do I need to do each week? And then what do I need to do each day? So every day I just wake up and like, this is what I have to do. So if I have 5 things I need to do each day to get myself where I want to be at the end of the week and at the end of the month and at the end of the year, then I know exactly how I'm going to get there.
Gotcha.
You know?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. All right. So you still have a long way to go.
I'm coming for your job, Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, I thought we weren't supposed to bring him up. I was refraining from bringing him up the whole show.
You too, Custer. I love BC though. I love Brian Custer. But if you're a talking head, I'm coming for that job. So
listen, well, you heard it here first. If you're watching this podcast, look out for this guy. And so you already plugged your social media. Is there anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, often spaced everywhere for music and general thoughts on what I do. If you want to follow me professionally, you can follow at Gaff Pierre, GAFFPIERRE. And for often spaced, it's OFTENSPACED. Also oftenspaced.com.
Awesome, man. And so in terms of now that you know what the show is about, what our goal is here, is there anything that you would add like to somebody watching this that, I mean, we kind of establish, for somebody who's looking to follow your path, but like just in general, is there anything you would add to people watching this for the first time? Obviously it's the first episode, so if they're watching, it's probably the first time, but what kind of like solid advice can you give to somebody today? Like what's one action or two actions that they could take today towards getting to where they want to be in life?
Write a list down of things or steps that can help you get to where you want to be, and try to get to at least one step a day. That's it. Or at least break the step in quarters or thirds or whatever you have to do. To just take a little bit of progress every day, and that's going to help you in the long run.
Awesome. Yeah, so I want to close out. One thing that I was planning on starting off with, and it kind of,
Tailspin.
It tailspun because it's my first podcast. I've never done this before. So I kind of just like jumped right in. I didn't like dip my toe in first, but so tomorrow we're filming this in advance. This isn't going to be released until the 27th of August, but today is August 17th. Tomorrow, our close friend CJ Neumann would have been 32 years old.
Rest in peace.
His birthday is August 18th, and we're always raising awareness now. His mother Joy created a charity in CJ's name called The Beat Lives On. I'm gonna put all the details specifically in the description on how you can make a difference and how you can help people that are struggling with the disease of addiction by making donations. You could reach out to Joy if she needs volunteers to help with events, because they do events every year. There's an annual 5K that they do each year. Do you know of any other events coming up off the top of your head?
No, not that I know of.
We're going to find out, and by the time this is posted, in the description there's going to be a link to the website, a donation link, and more information about the cause. I thought that would be a good thing to plug for this particular podcast, being that it's related directly to us. We grew up with CJ and we miss him a lot every day, so I wanted to kind of dedicate this first show to him and to the foundation. So that's all I got for today, man.
I'm gonna drop a little Easter egg about CJ. He does probably, if you quantified it, probably about 75% of my beats in my music. And a little Easter egg is that for the No Mercy podcast, which is Stephen A. Smith's podcast, currently called the Stephen A. Smith Show, for the first 30 episodes, I don't know if they'll continue to use the music, but for the first 30 episodes, the start slate music and the end slate music were both beats by DJ CJ. So
I didn't even know that, so I learned something new today.
Yeah.
Thanks for dropping that, man, and thank you for coming. I really appreciate you doing this, bro.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Really, we the monsters. Eat the game up. Need an encore. Friends and fam asking when.